Hey traders, Spencer here. Welcome to my weekly live trader psychology live stream series where I teach you anything with regards to the trader mindset, trading psychology, and the mental challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis whenever you're trading. So today the topic is going to be talking about how I met a trader about I'd say probably about 7, 8 years ago, um, during the um, probably I think it was around 2015, 2016, and he shared a story with me, amazing story, and also a tragic one, is where he made $1 million in trading profits and subsequently lost it all. So what I want to do today is I want to share with you his story of how he made $1 million and also maybe more importantly how he lost $1 million. So let's get started. All right, so let's talk about the good things. Okay, so how does a trader make over $1 million on his trading? Now, essentially, his story was he started off with about $50,000 in trading capital, and he was trading the forex markets. And this was, as I mentioned, 2015, 2000, actually 2014, 2015, during the European sovereign debt crisis, where a lot of the currencies, specifically the euro, had fallen very, very sharply versus other currencies. Now, specifically, he was trading the euro versus the US dollar. And there was and again, I'm not going to talk a little bit of, I'm not going to talk about the specifics of his trade, but what I want to do is I want to talk about the challenges that he had faced in terms of the opportunity he was looking at, and obviously how he captured it. So I want to talk a little bit more the psychology aspect that you can apply to your own trading. So he identified that the euro was very, very weak. In fact, the euro was already falling. And essentially, he started betting against the euro, the euro USD to fall, or essentially to continue falling. And what he did was he started playing. He wasn't looking to be very, very aggressive, but essentially he started with a position in the markets, betting that the euro versus the US dollar will fall down. And essentially, as he saw the euro fall sharply, he continued to add to his winning trades or to add to his euro positions. And because for some of you who know who trade the forex markets, there is quite a bit of leverage in terms of you being able to trade with a much bigger size. So I'm not sure exactly how much he was playing, but he was definitely trading with more than $50,000 in trading capital. And he was utilizing leverage. And some of you may know that if you trade the forex market, specifically if you trade outside of the US or even here in Canada, you can get up to 100 times, 200 times, or sometimes even 400 times. So he was utilizing a lot of leverage. He was adding to his winning trades. And more importantly, he was very, very aggressive. And essentially, he thought that uh, the mentality at that time was he's making money, and I think he doubled his account very, very quickly, and he started basically piling on into his winning trades. And lo and behold, I think it was in less than probably a 2, 3 week time frame, he turned his $50,000 into a million. And he thought to himself, wow, this is crazy. This is incredible in terms of his trading profits that he was able to accumulate that much of a capital in such a short period of time. So the thing that I want to talk about, few things here, is that the key in terms of him being able to essentially turn $50,000 into $1 million is he was basically betting against the trend, or sorry, betting with the trend. the euro USD was falling, and he basically continued shorting the euro versus the US dollar. So that's number one. He was staying with the trend. Number two, he was holding on to his winning positions. The trade was working in his favor, so he basically continued adding to his winning position. And the third thing that he was able to turn 50,000 to $1 million is he was very, very aggressive. He utilized leverage. He was not playing with 50,000. And if you just use only, let's just say, 10 times your capital, you're essentially playing with $500,000, right? So that is one of the keys for him to be able to turn that profit. Now you can say that's very, very impressive, which it is, and he could have just basically stopped and not traded at all, and basically cashed out with $2 million and said, thank you very much, and enjoy the fruits of his labor. Unfortunately, it did not end that way. So what happened was he said, wow, I made $1 million in such a short period of time. Let me now target to make $2 million. And in fact, he was thinking maybe I can turn it into $10 million. And what he did was he tried trading the same strategy in terms of betting against the euro versus the US dollar. And unfortunately, at that time, the markets changed. They were not trending lower. In fact, the euro versus the USD was essentially going up and down. So there was no trend at all. And he tried basically trading the same thing. He tried to bet against the euro. When it didn't go down, he would cut his losses, which is good, but he kept betting against the trend. And essentially, when the trend basically was not going down, it was going up and down. He kept losing money after money. So his $1 million profit essentially started whittling down, and it was actually quickly turned into a loss of over $500,000. So he lost half of his trading profits. Now you would say, well, turning $50,000 into $500,000, 10 times your capital, which is not too bad. But he said to himself, well, I had $1 million, so I'm going to keep trading and turn that $500,000 into $1 million because that was what he had in the beginning. So he basically continued trading, continued getting aggressive, and essentially the biggest downfall was for him was he had a gambling addiction. So the gambling addiction is where he's not trading logically, he's not trading rationally, he's trading irrationally. He's trying to essentially bet substantial amounts of capital in a scenario where he's basically not, the strategy is not working. And he didn't really share in terms of the details with me, essentially how um, kept taking loss after loss, but essentially he had some winning trades, but nowhere near the losses. And in the end, he lost it all. So not just the fact that he lost $1 million, but he lost all of his original capital as well, which was $50,000. Now, there's a lot of stories that you can learn from this. Essentially, one aspect of it is essentially that he didn't know when to stop. He was up $1 million and he wanted to target $2 million, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when the trades are not working in your favor, you got to tell yourself, hey, this trading is not working. I got to stop with whatever profit that I had, or whatever profit that is left. Number two is whenever you, let's just say, made a certain amount of money, let's just say, again, in this case, $1 million, And then suddenly you're down to $500,000 and you say to yourself, well, I lost $500. That was his mindset. But in reality, it wasn't that he lost $500,000 in profit. He essentially made $450,000 in profit, right? From turning 50,000 to $500,000. But he said to himself, well, I did lose $500 because originally I had over $1 million in profits. So the reality is the fact that he was thinking of the profit that he lost versus how much he actually was, up, right, in terms of his profit, which is $450,000. And again, that's not shabby at all. Now, the third thing is he was essentially trying to trade the same strategy. So he said, well, if I just use the same strategy that how I turned 50,000 to $1 million, then I should be able to turn, $1 million into, let's just say 10 million, right? Or his profit target was 2 million. But the reality is, psychologically, that wasn't the case. He was essentially trying to apply the same strategy in a market conditions where it was different from how he made money. So he couldn't get out of this um, downward spiral. He had this addiction of trying to essentially make things back, and sometimes he would not calculate his risk, and little by little, or more by more, is that he started losing all of his profits, and he just didn't know how to stop. And I'm sure all of you, and including myself, we've been in scenarios where we have made, a decent amount of profit only to give all that profits back. So how can we do that? Like how can we improve in terms of if you made a significant amount of profits and avoiding, in this case, losing $1 million or losing a significant amount of profit, what can you do to stop that? Well, the couple of things that I can share with you is one is essentially you got to know when to stop. So, for example, when you're up a certain amount, let's just say you're up $100,000, how much of that $100,000 are you going to? What's your minimum profit that you want to make, right? So, for example, you make $100,000. Well, how much of that are you planning to risk? Well, let's just say you're planning to risk $10,000 of it, right? So that way you still at least have 90,000. Now, if your 100,000 now suddenly becomes 200,000, well, how much of that 200,000 are you planning to risk? So essentially, what is the minimum amount that you're comfortable having as your profit target? Because you definitely, like, what he did was right, is that he just kept trading and trading. Because if he, let's just say, stopped from turning 50,000 to, let's just say, 100,000, he wouldn't have made $1 million, right? So you have to have certain targets in place, so that you don't have a restriction of how much you can make. But essentially, have an idea what's the minimum, right? What's the minimum that you're comfortable, if all hell breaks loose, how much of your profit that are you comfortable at least capturing? Now, the other lessons, obviously, when we talked about gambling addiction is not really trading anymore. You're in the beginning, how he made $1 million was actually, he applied a certain strategy, trading strategy, and he continued to add to his position. He basically was transferring, utilizing his profits to make even bigger profits. So, which is great, right? That's the ideal thing. But when the profits aren't continuing, you got to learn how to essentially stop, right? Or in this case, he was applying the same strategy, and if the strategy is not working, then you stopped trading, right? You stop, or at least you don't necessarily not to stop trading, but you need to adapt a different strategy, right, for different market conditions. So that's something that obviously he was just too immersed into his trading and he just could not stop. And I've been there, and I'm sure maybe some of you can relate. Is that sometimes when you get so involved in trading, especially on the day trading side, that you just can't stop, right? It's just that, um, and that high that you get, or that pursuit of even bigger profits, right? Um, and that's kind of where you got to say to yourself, and I had to remind myself in the past, is that whoa, 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 I need to take a step back. This is not trading. This is gambling. So that's something that um, sometimes again you just need to step away. And again, it's challenging because sometimes when you are in the middle of trading, especially again day trading, it's very, very easy to get yourself into the mindset that you just got to keep trading, right? And especially for him, when you're trading the forex markets, which are open 24 hours, 5.5 days a week, you can't stop, right? It's not like the stock market where it has certain set hours, and that's where you can't just depend on other conditions for you to stop trading. You have to have some type of um, internal controls or emotional controls to stop you from hitting those buy and sell buttons. And lastly, I'll share again. I mean, this is a very impressive story of essentially 50,000 to 100 to a million, and then a million to basically zero. Impressive story, but sometimes you just need to um, be able to be aware of your emotions at all times. In this case, his greed helped him turn 50,000 to a million, but also his greed also caused him to lose $1 million. So in probably in future streams, I'll have a chance to talk about the details of this trade. But what I want you guys to take from this is, maybe you don't have this type of story where um, you made $1 million and then you lost it all. But I want you to kind of look at some of your trades in the past where you have made a significant amount of money. Perhaps what you think is a big amount. Each amount is obviously relative. But think back to the times that you made a lot of money in a very, very short period of time. How can you maximize the profit, right, for maximum gain? But more importantly, how were you able to minimize the downside and not and be able to keep those profits that you made? All right. So this coming Sunday, in terms of my live stream, I'm going to talk about a second stream about trader personality. And I talked about this before, but I'm going to share with you guys a few trader personalities that can actually help you become a better trader. And there's other certain personalities that would cause you to be a very, very poor trader. So make sure you guys watch my live stream this coming Sunday, October 9th at 10 a.m. PST, 1 p.m. EST. All right, guys. Thanks for listening for this live stream, and I will see you guys this Sunday. Take care.